Hey you guys, this your girl Shani Mac, and I have a little segment here, and it's Ask Shani a Question. So I have a gentleman that sent me something on my video, has the 144,000 been marked, and I am here to give an answer to something that he asked a question about. So let's get on into it. Okay, you guys, so I'm going ahead and I'm going to read the question instead of doing what I was doing initially because I'm sick. So just going to wing it from this point. But I'll show the clippings of the comment afterwards. So it says, Shawnee Mac, I am sorry that I had to track you down using this channel, but you had made a comment on Jonathan Kleck's YouTube channel on the same video I commented on and wanted to reply to you. But unfortunately, I found out he shadow banned me from his channel for asking a particular question. I commented to Jonathan about Genesis 4 and his use of the Targum to explain the Cain and Abel story. My comment was 100% factual, and I gave reference to other videos Jonathan has released to strengthen the validity of my question. For some reason, he deleted my question twice with no explanation and then banned me. My question was not rude. I did not use any vulgarity. It was only a question based on verifiable facts. Could you please read what I wrote to him, possibly show me where I may have gone astray, and point out why he may have reacted the way he did? Thank you very much in advance, Greg. The comment goes as follows. Hello, Jonathan. I posted a comment earlier titled, Why do you promote the Targum over the King James Version? You replied to me by saying, I will pass P, but I wasn't sure what that meant. When I went back to ask for clarification, I noticed my comment had been deleted for some reason. So could you please read this comment again and clarify the explanation for me? I'm sure it was accidentally removed. Thanks, Jonathan. I've noticed in a lot of your videos you will explain Genesis 4 and 1 using the King James Version, which is awesome. You use the Bible to explain the entire verse except for one very important word, and that word is Lord. Strong's Concordance H3068, and it says Jehovah. I have gotten a man from the Lord, but then you seem to always go straight to the Targum to explain the end of this verse. Why is that? I guess it's because the Targum uses the words angel of the Lord and the Bible doesn't. That seems like a very important distinction to me. I watched your video, The Deed, Eve plus Adam plus serpent equals Cain, part 1, and you said something that caught my attention. At around the 3-minute mark, you start reading Genesis 4 and 1 from the Targum at around 3 minutes 55 seconds. You start explaining that we are better off using the Targum than the King James Version because it is more concise. Predates the Bible, and it's where the teachers of that time got their information. That's all good and well, but I wish to ask you for the followers a question. If the Targum is a concise and accurate, as you say, why then use Genesis 14:13 of the Targum? The same one you use, does it say that the giant Og, I would guess, prior to becoming King Og, escaped the deluge while riding on top of Noah's ark, and Noah proceeded to feed him during the entire flood? That doesn't ring true with the King James Version. Also, Nimrod is explained in the same way either. There are plenty other examples of huge differences between the two writings, but how are we to know which story is true and which one is complete horse crap? If the Targum is so great for Genesis 4 translation, why isn't it just as great when it comes to King Og and Noah's flood? And who exactly gets to make the determination? Genesis 14:13 from the Targum, Og and Og came, who had been spared from the giants that died in the deluge, and had written, protected upon the top of the ark, and sustained with food by Noah, but being spared through high righteousness, but that the inhabitants of the world might see the power of the Lord, and say, where there were there no not giants who in the first times rebelled against the Lord of the world and perished from the earth. But when these kings made war, behold, Og who was with them, said in his heart, I will go and show Abram concerning Lot, who is led captive, that he may come and deliver him from the hands of the kings into those hands he has been delivered. And he arose and came upon the eve of the day of the Pascha, and found him making the unleavened cakes. Then showed he to Abram the Hebrew, who dwelt in the valleys of Mamre, a Morah, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, who were men of covenant with Abram. Reference to the Targum, and compare the verses to the King James Version. Okay, so that was a lot of reading, you guys, and at one time at least, because I'm under the weather, I'm sick and stuff. Like I said, I was going to do the reading or whatnot, another way so you guys can see his text. So I'll just show it right after this. Okay, you guys, so you guys see his comments, so you guys can see that it's just exactly what he said. You could freeze it if you would like, so that you guys know that I didn't make sure I didn't misquote anyone. I read it myself, and I'm here to give you your answer. Now, the scriptures does talk about levels of confusion that will be placed out there, and I'm not saying that this is Jonathan Collect clearly. I just see that there is a misunderstanding that's going on because of the different versions and things of that nature. So I'm going to show you guys, those who don't know who Jonathan Collect is. I mentioned him in previous videos, and this is an individual who once followed him, and he's just trying to get some clarification. And I'm hoping that you get your answer, and those can learn something at the same time, because this guy really breaks down this stuff pretty good. So here's Jonathan Clark covering the part of the topic that this gentleman contacted.
It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. And once you understand this, and once you've taken hold of this, nothing that's happening in the world today will surprise you or scare you, because you'll understand it. The Bible says you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. By the way, Jesus is the truth. Okay, so let's talk about Genesis for a second. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the Bible. And God created Adam and Eve. They were created beings. And they were given certain orders by God that they should not partake, or neither should they touch the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I want to read something to you. I know most of y'all have probably never heard. I'm going to read to you an account from Genesis 4. It says, and Adam knew Hava, his wife, who had desired the angel. And she conceived and bare Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man, the angel of the Lord. And she added to bear from her husband Adam, his twin, even Habel. Okay, now let me tell you where that came from. That came from what's called the Targum. Now the Targum predates the King James Bible. The King James Bible was written after the Targum. So if you're looking for the exact wordage or verbiage or translation of what happened in the garden, you're doing better to go look at the Targum, because the Targum is what the rabbinical teachers used to teach everybody as they sat down. They read from the Targum in Aramaic.
So it's saying the difference between the recordings is from the 2nd century CE by Judeans, and was later adopted and revised by Babylonian Jews. Second, the Palestinian Targum was written in Galilee by the early 3rd century CE, combining literal translation with much additional material. So you see, it's not that he's like lying or anything like that. He's telling the truth. It's just that he's just trying to get, when you look at things and you look at the King James Version, it's a good version, don't get me wrong. 1611 version, like they've revised it so much. But see, the key thing here is that the first one were written by the Judeans, which is a totally different time frame, and then it was revised by Babylonian Jews. So you see, it's two different groups of people who's basically changed up meaning. And what they did was they took certain words out and added certain words. And the same thing happened in the King James Version. So what he was just basically advising us to do, although everything there was true, but he like, hey, if you really want to get the meat of this story, this is where it really pulls out what the King James is saying once you look into the Strong Concordance. So yes, there is the word Jehovah in the Strong Concordance, as he has stated or whatnot. However, that's not the creator's name. So we know that things have been added in through the time. So I don't know if you know this or not, but yes, the creator's name is not Jehovah. And as I was looking into it, Jehovah ended up going right back into the terminology of angels. So that's why, and I'm sure this is where Jonathan Clack had found it also. So that I believe is why he just says simply go there, because it's just going to simply cut down your research, and then it's going to give you the facts right there in that Targum. So I believe that is why he said what he said in the video, because I tend to go and, and fact check as well. And I wanted to make sure that this gentleman's question is getting answered. But if you look into the word Jehovah, if you get a good one, like I said, Eastward is one that I use, the Blue Letter Bible. Like I tell all you guys, like if you really dig into that word, you will see once you go into it, and it'll tell you where it rooted from. It rooted from the word angels. The word Jehovah rooted from the word angels. Also, when you look at research on as far as when the Bible was originally written, you'll also find that it was written in the 6th century BC. So we're talking about years. I haven't done the math on it, but we're talking about a big gap there. We're talking 3 centuries ahead, and this was in BC. And it says here, because Hebrew writings was taught to stretch back no further. So after that period in time, the Bible was rewritten for whatever reasons, and I'm sure it is. It was to water down so that the meaning could be meaningless, and they wanted to, once again, steer the narrative, you guys.
Now, the King James Bible has evolved from that. It's not the other way around. So I want to read to you now the same thing from Genesis 4 in this King James Bible. It says, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord, and again bare his brother Abel."
Okay, let's crack our Bibles, brothers and sisters. We're going to Genesis 4:1 in the King James Version. It says, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground." And we're going to jump into the Targum that you referenced to. And it says, "And Adam knew Hava, his wife, who had desired the angel, and she conceived and bare Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man, the angel of the Lord." Now we're going to use the Tanakh that is also stated here. And it says, Genesis 4:1, in the Tanakh it says, "Now the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gained a male child with the help of the Lord." Now we're going into the Sefer, Genesis 4:1. "And Adam kneweth Chua, his woman, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man frometh Yahuwah." So as you can see, you guys, it's not necessarily it's not him. It's just the different translations, like I said, the meaning of it. So we have the Targum, clearly states that it's Lord. Then you have the King James Version that states that it's Jehovah. And then we know Jehovah basically states both of them. If you look into the word, it also says angel, and it also states in clarity that it's supreme being. So it's the 2 in 1. So there were 2 twins, as he was stated. So they were saying that Cain, she bared it from Cain. But you got to remember, Adam and Eve is at a confused state right now. Like, she's having a baby. She don't even know what's going on. That she got taught something she's never learned. So really the translation, like I said, that's what's being taken out of context here, is because when you keep translating and translating and translating, as he was saying, it started to lose its meaning. So I think probably he's probably a little frustrated because it's not like you're the only person that probably come on his page and then just, I guess ask the question whether it was bad or not. I'm not necessarily saying the guy had a bad day or anything, but it's so much somebody can honestly take when he's like breaking it down the way that he does. And it's like, I get it. And then you may have some who don't. And then some people intentions on whether they do or they don't, depending on how they receive it. And I'm not saying that you're not receiving the guy's message or anything like that. But I just believe that, once again, it was lost in translation. Maybe your version is saying that. And so his further extensive looking into things, and he's fact checking the most predated version, which says angel. So you got to know that our creator, he's the creator of everything. So even though Cain may have done what he's done, and Satan came and infiltrated into Eve, and then and so did Adam. He showed her things, which is very sexual, very out of this place, So learning something for the first time and not seeing that it's bad until they got their judgment and their punishment, that's when she knew she fucked up. So I would say, reading the context of all three of those versions, she didn't know what was going on. She didn't necessarily say, that she laid with our creator, because then if you read it that way, in some sense, and somebody look at that and they would think that because she's saying that she got the child from the creator, as if it was the creator that did the act. But when we continue to read, we know it wasn't the creator that did the act. Although we know Satan came down here to act as who? The creator. So you see, that's where she's calling him that, because he's also considered a god and he did some level of creation. But who takes the credit for that? Because Yah created him. You get what I'm saying? So I'm hoping you understand. That's pretty much probably through just frustration, and there's so many people coming on there instead of just taking the information for what it is. There has been lost in translation because of different versions have been written and changed and stuff like that. So majority of your stuff in the King James Version is on point. However, you have certain words, like I had said in some of my videos in the past, certain words have been taken out intentionally just for it to lose its meaning. So if you was to tell a story, or I tell a story today, and somebody cut, snip, do whatever, and then they break it down another way on what they think I mean, or how someone may perceive it, translation gets lost down the line. It don't mean the same anymore, depending on how someone may choose to use what you may say or what was written. So that's what was happening. We got two different authors. We clearly see that happen in the Targum, in the version that you sent me. And I used the Tanakh, which is also still discussing about it. And you see it's still meaning a little bit something different. Then you jump over and you get King James Version is meaning something. So it's basically saying it's really a misunderstanding when it comes to that. But yeah, he's not confused. That's why he told you to go back, So I hope that makes some sense.
Okay, so in these very few sentences, it says, once again, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. It doesn't say she conceived again. They were twins. Now, when you go to the Targum and you just go do a little homework, and Adam knew Hava, his wife, who had desired the angel. Now, this is the serpent we're talking about. And she conceived and bare Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man, the angel of the Lord. And she added to bear from her husband, Adam, his twin, even Habel, Habel. Okay.
And see, here's our answer to everything and what's going on. And that is in 1 Corinthians 14:33. And it says, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. So as I was just saying, it's not that he's doing the confusing. He's just trying to show you how not to be confused because of the many versions that has been written and the validity of who did what at what point in time. And see, we know that there has been different translators and different errors have been rewriting and rewriting and rewriting to where they strip the meaning of it to where it don't sound as bad. But then when you go and look at the way that it was originally meant to be said, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that make a lot more sense. Because I mean, if you, nobody is just, you have the desire to want to do something. Like, this is why sin and things like this of that nature is discussed in there throughout the Bible, because it's talking about the desires of the flesh. Like, she had the one of desires she had in order to be beguiled, So it's not necessarily that, it's not even at all. Jonathan is not trying to push confusion. And I think that's why he just probably was like, you know what, I'm not even about to deal with this today. I don't know how many times I got to keep repeating myself. And innocently, even though it was a whole lot, because I read it, he probably seen all of that, read the end. He's like, you know what, I've just said what I said. And it's like, after so long, I understand where he's coming from. And I'm sure at some point, when you get the reading and you telling somebody something and you're clearly being as clear as you possibly can, but I know there's other versions out there. So this is why he tried to show you other versions. And I do that from time to time as well, because different versions, but you have to be sure of your different versions. Not all these new versions that they update. No. From that point on back, those are the versions that I feel are the most important to go off of, because you will find more meat in the story. It will make more sense about what you're reading versus it seeming more elementary versus you like, oh, this is like, uncut. So this is what's going on. And I hope I answered your question. And we're going to jump into some more stuff that you did ask about in Genesis. So let's get back into it, because he got some good stuff here that he does teach, and I want you guys to see it. So since we're on the subject, here we go. Go ahead, John.
At the very beginning in the garden, there was this twin paradigm, Cain and Abel. Well, Cain killed his brother Abel. It's kind of interesting because the whole system that we're in is cannibalistic. It's the serpent eating its own tail right there. That's called the Ouroboros. And the serpent eating its own tail represents the system that we live in. It literally is vampiric. And when Cain killed Abel, it was a manifestation of the government that was established in the very beginning. One kills the other. And now let me explain to you. That same government exists in every human being. There's a good Jonathan and there's a bad Jonathan. There's a good you and a bad you. You are your own twin. You have this dichotomy that's going on. There's a good you and a bad you. And that's why Christ came, was to rectify the situation. Now, I want everybody to go back to Genesis. It said, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman. So the serpent, which is called the Nakash, and it's called a Nakash because of the hissing sound it makes when it speaks. It's not a snake. It's an upright humanoid fallen angel, or I shouldn't say humanoid. It's an upright fallen angel serpent being that's talking to Eve. And it makes a hissing sound when it speaks. And when it says that he said to the woman, the word for woman is adulteress. Now, we're talking in Genesis 3. So Eve hadn't even been with Adam yet. So by definition, the word adulteress is someone that's had sex outside the covenant of marriage from the partner she has. Well, her partner was Adam. God created them. They were created beings. So she conceived with the serpent, and it says in Genesis, once again, she said, the Lord said, we shall not eat from the tree, neither shall we touch it, lest we die. So a lot of people may have been taught something different, but you haven't been taught the truth. So Eve conceived with the serpent. She also conceived with Adam. There's a type of twin that's called heteropaternal superfecundation, and it's where a woman conceives twins from different fathers.
And one of nature's rarest events confirmed in New Jersey. A woman gave birth to twins, but each child has a different biological father. Before you say, what? Listen up. The evidence was discovered this week in a paternity case. The woman's from Paterson, New Jersey, and is suing one of the men for child support. DNA tests show that he was the father to one baby, but not the other, except a woman conceiving simultaneously from two different men.
So at the very beginning of humanity, Satan's government was established by the intersection of the very first two cells, which was the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And that began this whole government where everybody on planet Earth would be their own worst enemy. They would have a duality of mind. They would do good, they would do bad, they would do right and wrong, light and dark, right side up and upside down. I'm wearing this shirt on purpose. When two cells intersect, they come towards each other and then they intersect. And the intersection of those two cells makes that thing that looks like a football or an all-seeing eye. It's called a Venn diagram. It's also called the all-seeing eye. Now I want you to look at the shirt I'm wearing, just briefly. The shirt I'm wearing is called Under Armour. This is the exact same thing as the intersection of those two cells. The very beginning of humanity. The intersection of the first two cells began a race of beings that were twins, Cain and Abel. What's really fascinating is when you put the words together, cannibal. The whole system is cannibalistic. One kills the other. And that's what Satan feeds off. That is his source of energy. That's where Satan gets his energy from souls, because we know by the Bible that Satan prowls around like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And we're devoured from the inside. That's why they built the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers are merely a representation of the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman.
So now you see how I'm saying what I'm saying. You have two different authors. Well, you have more than two different authors, but we're just talking about these two versions in particular. And then I threw the Sefer in there, and I also threw the Tanakh in there. And those also predate further back as well. But you have different authors. You have the actual Jews who they know are correct Jews, who are Judeans. You know, these are the tribe of Israel. And then you have Babylonian Jews who wrote something later, and they wrote it off of that. And then, you have down the line, you have King James, who people may believe is have wrote demonology, which is inaccurate. Those are two totally different King James. But not to get off the subject, I just want to throw that in there for the record, because I know I ran across it, thought the same thing. Look back again, boom, it's two different people. So that's why I'm saying the confusion that comes in there, that is all Satan. He does this on purpose so that we can fight and bicker over small things instead of looking at the bigger picture. Satan is working, and he's using to conquer, divide, and intercept wherever, however he can. And if he can get one person to throw off the other person, or at least to the views and stuff like that, I believe Jonathan is just trying to avoid all that confusion and going back and forth, because the things that he is doing, is not enough time to be going back and forth about it. But I understand why you wanted to just get a clear understanding. What happened there is that there is just two different authors. And like I said, when somebody passed down a trend, is how they want to translate it and put it back out there to the public and say, this is the version we want everybody to use and not this old one. So now the meaning has changed, and it keeps changing. And then when you get into these newer versions up here in the future where we are now, the meaning is all over the place. There's so many different versions of the King James now. So this is why he's saying what he's saying. Satan comes to divide and conquer. This is his mission. It's always been his mission. This is why he did what he did, because he came out here to set up shop, got jealous because, Adam and Eve came on the scene and they got a promise to have the earth that he was trying to have. And then when y'all set it up all nice and beautiful, he was on some hating stuff. And so he needed to be a part of this world. He could not be a part of this world unless he put his seed and let his seed exist in this world. That's the same thing that Yahuwah had to come and do to fix things, to correct things. Because it's been mad confusion. You got people looking like you, but they are not of you. So just like Cain and Abel, you got two twins that are from the same mother, but they have two different source outlets. So like I said, that's where the confusion came in. One was a good child, and then the other one wasn't. And then that one got destroyed, and the other one got destroyed later on because he got his karma. And the same thing he did to his brother. His whole house fell on his head. So this is how that all goes. But that's later on down in the story, you guys. It's pretty good to see what happened to Cain because he got his karma back from what he did to Abel. And then you have Shem who's on the scene. And now Shem has a righteous bloodline, but Cain bloodline who is also here. So when you talk about Og and they're saying about Og being able to still be on the ark and stuff like that, I believe something like that was in Genesis 14:1. I will do another video in the future that will cover about the Og and the Noah situation. But as of for right now, I'm hoping I gave you an answer to help you understand what went wrong with you and Jonathan and what was going on with the text and why. So it's all just due to confusion. That's all it really simply is. It's just to keep somebody not realizing the depths of the full meaning on what took place versus what actually took place for real. So, you got to go back to the source. You got to go back as far into the source as you possibly can. So he's not shooting down the King James Version because clearly we know he uses it. But sometimes you got to go outside of things. That's the only way you can get your answers. You have to sometimes go outside and find older text from that time and see what's said there. Or use your concordance to find out a deeper meaning as well. And this is why I encourage you guys, when you read the Bible, please have those type of things on hand, a concordance, a dictionary, thesaurus, or whatever, Some things, you may be able to use online. Sometimes you got the books, you may be able to pull it out. However you want to do it, but I strongly encourage that you guys do research outside of it. That way it'll make sense why some people use and they bounce back and forth with certain illustrations because of what was discussed in that time frame, and it was a certain way it was discussed, and then they decided, wait a minute, that's a little bit too much. These people getting a little too smart. We need to revise this Bible and give them a more watered down version so they won't really catch on too soon. And they've done quite well all these years. Gotta give it to them. They've done pretty good. Got people up here arguing and fighting over things. We got bigger stuff to worry about now at this point. And I mean that in all seriousness. Like, no disrespect at all to you, but we at a point now, Genesis, and arguing about Genesis 1 and what versions mean more than the other. The message has to get out there. And I know you trying to learn or trying to get clarity as far as what he was talking about and you didn't know, but yeah, he's not lying, and he wasn't going wrong about when he was saying that. He was just saying you got to sometimes go back because some stuff is said differently at that point, and then you be like, that don't make sense here. It seems so light, and then all of a sudden, boom, it gets bad. But it was like, no, it was already bad. They just took the meaning out, and decided to hit you with the bad when they was ready to hit you with the bad. So that's all he was doing, and to my knowledge, I'm sure that's what it meant. I don't know him personally, but looking at the content of how he go about showing you this is what's going on. It's like they show everything in plain sight. So it makes things a lot easier once you are paying attention to what's happening in clear sight on things. And, so I hope I helped you out and I answered your question. And anyone else who may have questions like this and want me to cover them, to break down and have a better understanding of what's going on, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can leave comments. And make sure you hit the bell, the little ringer on the side, and see the parentheses. And that way you know that you'll be able to get all the updates on every single video that I post. All right? Take care, you guys. Love you.